Hey, how's it going? In this video, I want to talk to you about um, an experience a few years ago when I decided, together with a friend, to go out into the forest for an overnight stay without any water, any food, and any sleeping material. On which later turned out to be the hottest day of the year. It was quite awesome. So let's get right ahead. Um, and early in the morning, we had already packed all our stuff on the previous evening. We decided to get started. So we kept on walking through the fields towards the forest, and in the early morning hours, it was really the temperature was really comfortable, so to say. It was awesome. But quite soon we figured that it's gonna be a pretty hot day. And I purposely didn't want to know how the weather was gonna be because I wanted to, test myself in a way. So, no matter how the conditions would be, I would do this with exactly that equipment, and I just have to adapt to my surroundings. My equipment was a steel cup, a backpack, a water filter, a knife, a pocket knife. I used neither nor of the knives, but it was just fancy. Yeah, that was the main purpose of it. um, well, I did use the knife a little bit, but I could have done it without it. Anyway, we'll get to that later. Um, so we kept on walking, and we quickly got quite thirsty, and we found a creek, luckily. In that creek, we were able to fill up our empty water bottles, and we knew that it's definitely not given that we're gonna find a new creek, another creek, in within the next few hours. So we drank as much as we could, and even more. So we felt a little sick, because we had just drank so much. Anyway, after having filled up our water reserves and our water bottles, we kept on walking, and we made a mistake. While we were walking at the beginning, we saw many wild edibles that were really suitable for our dinner in the evening. And keep in mind, we had not brought along any food with us, so we needed to collect it. And my friend said we should definitely start gathering some food right now, but I was stupid enough to not listen to him, because I thought if we find something now, and we didn't know how far we would get, I thought sometime in the evening hours we'll still have enough time to just find some food, because the plants that we saw in the beginning are actually quite common in my region. So I thought, let's not do this now, because that's just more baggage, that's more weight, although it doesn't weigh so much. It takes more space, and it just doesn't taste as good if you collect it hours before you actually consume it. So I was against it. Anyway, we kept on walking and walking and walking. We got hungry during the midday, and luckily, what we found is some cherry trees. So after having eaten, not gonna lie, like more than half a kilo. After having eaten half a kilo of cherries, I felt sick once again. But it was at least a fountain of sugar, and we could definitely use that to, feel a little more powerful again, so to speak. So yeah, we stayed there a short while, took a break there, and went for and pursued our journey for another 2 or 3 hours. We Kept on walking and walking and walking, and I noticed that my friend was getting more and more quiet, so he was getting quite exhausted, which is quite understandable. Keep in mind it was 40 degrees hot, so it was quite uncomfortably warm. And um, at some point, we had a lucky moment because we found another creek, and so we decided to cool ourselves down a lot because we needed it. We were drenched in soaked in sweat, and it was just exhausting, obviously. And yeah, we just showered ourselves in that creek, and it was amazing. It was really cold, and our mood got a whole lot better. But that lasted for less than an hour, and then it got quite uncomfortable because my friend was getting pretty exhausted. He had not eaten much at all, less than me. I was the one to say, use those cherries now. And we had not gathered any food to that moment. He was getting quieter and quieter and weaker, and you could see that he was really suffering from that heat, from that exhaustion. There's a name for this. Let me just briefly look it up. Heat exhaustion. So, it was definitely nagging him a lot. And at some point, it got so bad that we just knew we had to stop at this point. And keep in mind, we were always walking in one direction, so it was not like we were walking in circles constantly near our home. So we had been walking for, I don't know, 8 hours or more away from home. So it was getting a little difficult to just, get home quickly. But it wasn't an option for us anyway. So what we did is we decided to just walk a little more because I knew that in that area there was a fireplace where you can legally make fire. There are many stones, and wait, let me just look up the word for that. No, I don't find the correct word. Anyway, there was a stone ground, and that grill, or however you want to call it, where you can make the fire on top of those stones. And I pushed him to get to that point, and we dropped our baggage there and went to the field that was just a few meters further away. Our batteries of our smartphones were empty, so he had a solar station with him. It was quite fancy. Unfortunately, it didn't work at all. Like, at all. And it quickly afterwards started to get dark, and so during sunset, I still remember it. I was on the field trying to gather wild edibles, and he was just lying there, half dead, basically. So it wasn't that bad, but he was pretty messed up. Yeah, he was not doing so well. Um, it got a little better, I assume, because it was getting a little colder now that the sun was setting and the evening was approaching in a way, or it was already evening because it was summer and it gets dark quite late. And I was the one who gathered all the food. As already mentioned, I had not gathered any food to that point. We ate the cherries at the spot and just brought a few cherries with us. Yes, we had some cherries, but I was so sick of that stuff. I didn't eat cherries for another month or so because I was so sick and tired of that taste. And so was he. Anyway, I forced him to eat some cherries, and the plants that I was able to find were quite lame, so to say. what I found was dandelion, I think is the word for it. Let me look it up. Yeah, dandelion, which is completely basic, but it's a great plant. It has kind of I had to say, a nutty taste, a bit like nuts, a tiny bit of that taste. And it's great for salads, for example. And I used to make coffee out of the roots of dandelion, but that's another story. Um, of course, it doesn't have caffeine, but the whole process that this making of this dandelion root coffee undergoes gives it this smoky coffee taste. I definitely liked it a lot, but that's a different topic. And what I also found was stinging nettles and um, plantain. At least that's what Google Translator says. Another very common plant. It's a pioneer plant that grows basically everywhere where people actually don't want it to grow, basically. What those plants have in common is they're they're not the best, for sure. So along the way, there were way more interesting plants in terms of flavor, but in such situations, you don't emphasize flavor so much. You're really hungry because keep in mind, we had only eaten a few cherries, and it was evening, and we had been walking for over 8 hours. 105 degrees Celsius or 104, right about that. I don't know. It was more than that, actually. At degrees Fahrenheit, I'm sorry. 104 degrees Fahrenheit or 40 degrees Celsius. That's it. And yeah, he was pretty messed up. We went back to the stones, back to the fireplace where we had left our stuff, and I made the fire. I gathered the the wood for that, the branches, the sticks, everything. I made the fire, and he was completely apathic at that point, so I couldn't really talk to him. Well, I could talk to him, but it wasn't really the best conversation. He was just completely tired in a way, but he didn't fall asleep. He was just running on a very, 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 very low battery, basically. And anyway, he had an emergency kit with him, with I should look that up. With a rescue blanket. Those rescue blankets are basically aluminum blankets that are made to keep the heat in and not take much space when you transport it. So he wrapped himself in there, and he was freezing, although it wasn't cold. And yeah, he was pretty messed up. We did have jackets with us. We didn't wear them throughout the day, but we knew for the night it was going to be quite helpful. The problem is, I had not thought that he was not gonna be able to help me at all in the evening. I had not calculated with him having a heat exhaustion, and it got quite late, so we didn't build a shelter at all. I should have built one, but I just didn't. I didn't have the time. I had to take care of the fire to keep him warm and everything. And yeah, it cost time, a lot of time. And he couldn't add anything to it. And I'm not angry in any way because he was just completely screwed at that moment. Anyway, after having cooked those plants, he felt a little better by then because it was nice and cold. It was definitely not so warm anymore. We had a little bit to eat. He drank some more water, but he was still quite apathic. And yeah, we decided to just sleep like that on the stone floor. And I fell asleep. And the problem is when the fire goes out, because we didn't build a big log fire or anything like that, that just burns for hours and hours. pretty soon after I had fallen asleep, the fire went out, and he fell asleep before me. And when I woke up, I don't know, like 3 hours later, I opened my eyes, I looked at my body, and I was covered with snails. Covered. There were like 8 snails or so on me. I don't know, maybe I'm exaggerating, but there were a few, definitely. And I looked to my left, some more snails. I looked to my right, some more snails. I knew at that moment, like, I can't move anywhere. I don't want to hurt those snails. So I was just like, oh man. And I dropped my head back to the floor and fell asleep again because I was just so messed up. I didn't want to do anything about it. Like, you snails do what you want to do. I have to go to sleep again. A few hours later, I don't know, like 3 more hours later, I woke up. The birds were singing. I was hungry. I was thirsty. My back hurt. And yeah, that was a good night. My friend felt a little better. Still not good though. And yeah, we packed our stuff and went for the hike back. And in order to keep ourselves motivated, what we used to do a lot is sing. He always enjoyed singing some old traditional German songs, and it was just a lot of fun. And he taught me lots of songs from Queen. He's a big Queen fan, and yeah, so what we did is in the early morning when we were just both completely messed up and we started to walk and we were unmotivated, we just started singing Bohemian Rhapsody, and it was awesome. It was completely awesome. So it definitely our mood definitely improved from that. So we started singing some Queen songs, and I don't know, just singing songs throughout the day to just get along in a way. And at some point we managed to be back home, completely wasted. So that was a really cool trip, and I learned a lot from it. And sometimes I think, how should I have taken more care of my friend at that point in time? But as soon as he was really exhausted, I said, we will go no further and just lie down and I'll take care of the situation. But we should have detected his bad state earlier, so it wouldn't have gotten so far. But he didn't want to fall behind. He just wanted to keep pushing, and ultimately he pushed himself a little too far. But nothing serious happened. The next day he just slept a lot and ate, and then he was back to normal again. So anyway, that was a little story on how we, went on a trip on the hottest day of the year. I don't know which year it was. 2015 perhaps, or 16. 15 I think. And that was really amazing. If you like this video, feel free to like it and subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. If you don't want to, that's no problem. It's up to you. I don't force you to do anything. And yeah, if you are listening to this right now and you understand what I'm saying because you're not sleeping, I kind of, did my job badly, but I apologize for that. But feel free to just click on the next video. May it be a video of mine or someone else. Now just relax, keep calm, close those eyes, and eventually you'll fall asleep. So take care, have a great day or night, and I'll see you soon, hopefully. Bye.